went to get lunch in the shop window. Now you go, and they're Africans there. So whereas the people from the West Indies have gone to the inner cities, the Africans have just gone wherever.
Yeah,
I also think it goes. It's broader than that too. Actually, so I think there's a socio-economic dimension to it too. For instance, lots of black people are put in specific areas, red zones, if you will, right, where it's perceived that there will be high crime because those areas that they're put into was at the time only ghettoized for white working class, and it's about money as well as socio-economics. Black people coming to this country from the Caribbean, as opposed to from Africa, came to this country at a certain employment level. You find that most Africans coming to this country here, right? They all come, and they're studying for a startup, and most of them are doctors, and they go for business. You understand? So they're going to spread their wings a damn sight wider than the Caribbean people, and because of that would explain the reasons to why Africans are all over the place, because they travel more than we do in terms of right the way across the country. They're fearless.
But I think it isn't. Another thing part of that, though, it's not just across the country.
But another thing that's
also
part of that is because they don't understand Britain. For example, there's a comedian, an African comedian, who said he wanted to know, he was coming to Britain and he wanted to know where he was going to land, where he was going to go. So he saw on MTV, Geordie Shore. He saw people walking around in t-shirts and whatever, and he's thinking, that's the warm place. I'm going to go there. So he's ended up in Newcastle, one of the coldest places in Britain, thinking that the people are wearing those clothes because it's warm. And I'm sure that people look at Scotland and think Scotland's warm, but it ain't. We know that when winter kicks in Scotland, it's winter, and you need sheep.
Can I give you a little story?
Well,
when I went to Spain,
a lot of black people have inhabited socio-economic areas that are low, and it's perceived by the powers that be to be high. Was probably when poor white people. That's right.
Give me 1 second. My son just arrived back home. 1 second.
Feels like the police knocking about your insurance.
A wider
A debt collector on the door.
You know, I think you're right.
I think you're right. I think the difference is that when black people came to Jamaica, they wanted them to fulfill certain roles. Yeah. Africans are coming of their own volition. So they are coming. They're doing that. They are, as I said, learning to.
They're with the purpose.
Universities.
They're going to the medical field, and they're going to hire. They're going to hire money because they come over here with the intention of hiring.
There's an honesty I mentioned here. They look at us in a slightly different way, you know, because they've got their own name, and we've got Williams, Brown,
and they're less
Jones, Smith, and that to them, they see themselves higher than us.
But you've got to remember. You
have to remember too. They are less assimilated to the British culture than we are.
That's right.
But you got to remember that they had a head start in regards to, if you go back to the origin of slavery, where they were supposed to have, if this is a fact, they were supposed to have sold Jamaicans. So they've had a head start, and a lot of our history has been removed.
Can I disagree with you there? Can I disagree with you?
You can disagree. Of course you can disagree. Because I said, I did say in inverted commas.
Yeah, because what we seem to miss here is when the Windrush generation came here, they came with a lot of enthusiasm, right? Now, that enthusiasm is what built the foundations for what we're doing now. The African people have come with that initial enthusiasm, but they have had the ability to survey the landscape to see where we went wrong, yeah? Where we went wrong, the generations after the Windrush, and because we have not moved forward ourselves, we spend a lot of time talking, arguing, everything else, but we don't move forward. So when they move to different areas, because they're used to trekking through Europe, going from one place to another, and they tend to save their money because they know, and I know because I deal with a lot of Africans in Telford, they save their money. They will eat the lowest things. You know, they will make it a ritual to go and buy a pig's head and share it amongst themselves from a butcher's. They'll eat the cheapest meats possible. They'll do everything cheaply so they can still afford the stuff for their kids. And when you look at the taxi drivers, a lot of them are Africans, but they do it cheaply. I have some that come here with the laptops and everything else to be repaired. Yeah. But they buy the best stuff for their kids. But we also have to consider that when they move to different areas like Scotland, that it's also looking for cheaper places to live. You got places like Northumberland and Durham, where nobody really wants to go to. But the thing is, though, they can eke out a living there because their salaries aren't that high, the properties are cheap, and they can actually cohabit together in order to save money. They do that. That's what our Windrush generation did in the first place. Came over, lived together. The bed, they used to say that the beds never went cold because as soon as somebody comes on a night shift, somebody else was in that bed. So we have to realize that they've surveyed the landscape. We are the ones who failed, in essence, that we haven't moved forward because yes, we've always been oppressed, but we let those things distract us instead of combining our efforts together to move forward. We're just concentrating on living or assimilation into the British culture.
Okay, Alan, how trustworthy are you as a person?
Well, me?
Yes, how trustworthy are you as a person?
I think I'm very trustworthy.
Okay, then, so from here, then, let's think about this. Yeah. Why not then? Let's appoint you as a head of a potential trust fund where we get everybody to donate. At least, if everybody in the black community donates £10 or £20 for the year.
Well, listen to me now. This is not the first time.
And we start building some libraries where we can get education and know our own history.
Well, it's nothing new that you're saying to me, because I've put forward different ideas. I've put forward where we've got all these black churches not even being used. And in fact, I was in a conversation with Desmond Jadu from Birmingham. And the thing is that a lot of these churches aren't being utilized. And I said, well, why don't you give up some of the churches to turn them into our community hubs? Because when I teach some children in care, the actual schools or the council will actually book rooms in libraries and different things like that for me to teach them. So if we had our own places like that, convert some of these churches to the places that the kids can come to, we can get our kids off the streets. We can say any kids excluded from school can come into that environment and actually learn. That's how we should do it. Now, I'm not adverse to even saying putting my hand in the pocket and saying, there you go, we'll start this off. But it's people sustaining it. It's sustainability of starting to do something. I had an idea of doing the United Brothers so that we all raise money instead of going cap in hand like these charities do to governments and also different charitable bodies where they control what you do with that money. They control what you do with how you spend it. They say you've got to spend this money on that and that's nothing else. So they're in control. So when you go cap in hand, that's when you've lost all dignity. You've lost control of what you can do. Your potential's gone because you've let somebody else control it. Whereas if we pull together as men, as we should do, we should be able to do our own thing. And then nobody can dictate to us how we actually run that building, as long as we run it legally and for the community. Because I'd love to see a place that's got all our past people up on the screen, or pictures of them around the building, whatever it may be. Because all we see, if you type in, say, for instance, Lindy Hop's a kind of dance, right?
I don't think there needs
and all
to be.
You see is white people come upon there.
I don't think there needs to be a building because that's going to cost money. A building
you might say not a building, but the thing is though, property dictates a lot, because otherwise, without a property of your own, a basic building of your own, you will be forever renting different places. Even the churches nowadays, the black churches rent buildings. Yeah, the congregation works buildings, and so much money comes out of the people's pockets. Why aren't they buying a building?
Just hear me out a second, Alan.
Country.
Just hear me out a second, because I get what you're saying about the building, but just take out the building part for a second, because that's to get that building is going to cost a lot of money. I'm just saying, just one trustworthy person needs to create a business bank account where everyone puts into that business bank account. That way, you've cut out all the electric costs for this building in the first place. Gas, electric, water bills, and tax for the land. The money that's put into the business account can be used to help communities or families to get their own house, instead of struggling to support one big building for someone to like.
But don't forget, as a community, but as a community, there has to be a focal point. You know, you can't get around to everybody, but you can't get around to everybody and just distribute money. You have to have a focal point that people can actually come together. The whole idea is to build your community up so you can connect older generations with the younger generations. You got to have that. That's an essential part of it. Then people can actually see something tangible. They can see something actually happening. They then can contribute towards that. So I can't say that we can't have a building, because even in this country, every single church has a school attached to it. But you got so many black churches. Where's the schools? You see? But you do need a focal point. And the focal point we've got now.
Being the Christians amongst us.
We've got a school in Birmingham. We had it, but we've got a school in Birmingham, and people from as far afield as Wolverhampton would. It's called Harper Bell. It's over in top end of Digbeth. It was more successful some years back than it is now, because of the funding. I think the grant maintain thing. But yeah, we have schools. We have schools.
Yeah, but that's to say, that's what you say. It was more successful earlier on, and the funding and everything else. See that, and that's where I talk about the principle of putting out the begging bowl, and they can always kick that begging bowl at you and say no. We're not giving any funding for that. We've allocated somewhere else.
Yeah,
and the other thing is that we're all...
the only reason that happened is the parents were tasked to make a contribution every quarter, and too many of them didn't. And so
that happens. That happens. They haven't got their priorities right.
Why was that happening, Lennox? Why weren't they contributing?
Very good question. Why was that? Because they thought, this is a church, we're making a contribution in the offering plate, and so we don't need to make another contribution. The church should pay for it, and the church should pay for everything. And so because I'm a member of this organization, I think you guys ought to pay. I'll send my kids, and my kids will benefit, but I don't want to I don't want to make any financial contribution.
Well, that seems to me that sounds crazy, because if they're supposed to be Christians,
I don't want to sort of get into an argument about sort of what makes a good Christian or what doesn't. The argument it didn't succeed as well as the grant maintained schools because of the funding issue.
Well, that's where it's down to us then to just get up and do our thing. I've got I'm putting myself forward for a sponsored walk to help, because I help with some of the old black people in the community every fortnight, cook meals for them and everything else, and preparing to get a minibus now for them so we can take them to different places, and also got the younger people coming in to reconnect with them. But I'm putting myself out in order to do this sponsored walk so I can actually raise funds. When I started with my charity before, that was the first thing we did. I organised a walk up the Wrekin, called it the Wrekin Rush, and we raised £400 for our first meeting, and the kids came along. And you see, that's what I'm saying. As men, we should be able to lead these things. We should be able to not expect, because there's a lot of reliance on women to do a lot of that sort of stuff in the background, but we should be leading the way. And you'll find that the women will actually follow if they see something
well, there
positive.
are groups. I mean, I'm part of a group called Men for Positive Change in Wolverhampton. You know, we do a monthly sort of walk around the different parts of Wolverhampton, looking to connect with the kids. We've been going 6 years now, looking at knife and gun crime in town. At the end of the year.
Joe Jackson. There's also Joe Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he lives around the corner from you.
So, Alan, things are happening. You know, things are happening. But I'll take your point.
Well, we need to pull each other in some more then to help support.
I also respect the fact that you're doing quite a lot in your sphere, and that is very commendable. But things are happening. I just think that there is something the generation has to learn from its mistakes. We have made mistakes since we've been here. I just think that my generation or our generation upwards are beginning in our older years, beginning to right that now and get things back on track. Back in the day, our church used to run a Saturday school and a summer school. And the Saturday school was like a supplementary school for the kids. And in the summer school too it was a summer school, but it also had its educational edge too, where we took them on educational visits. Then it collapsed in the late 90s because the whole politics of things changed. Some people moved away. The church split. What my brother's trying to do now is restart that again now. You know, so he's part of Churches for Positive Change, where I find that a lot of the generation of pastors that were born in the 50s are now getting clued in to what was happening in America in the late 80s and early 90s for community organizing. The church is far, as well as being heaven bound, they're also fixed their focus on social and community, because while they're down here, they have to make things work and have to see the future for themselves, their children, and their children's children. So things are happening.
And sometimes you've got to push. And sometimes you've got to push them. Is what you. Sometimes you have to say. There's sometimes a membership have to push them, Owen, to get there. Rather, because I mean, some of those guys are academic and they just church focused.
Yeah.
But it's people like us that has to say, well, hold on, there's an issue here outside of the walls of the church.
What Alan is saying, and Scott is saying too, is which is something which keeps on eluding us all the time. We all have these ideas, but we're separate. We're separate bushel. We need to be the lack of coordination, coalescing together to become one organism moving forward, right, is what we tend to fall down on all the time. And that's the issue I believe the two gentlemen are making. And it's a very good point, because we know this, and it's for us to put it right. Whether you're man, woman, dog, or cat, we know we've got to.
I know, but the problem, Owen, is... Owen, you still there?
I don't know if he's dropped out, if we lost him or not.
Owen, you frozen?
Okay, so what I was going to say was, the problem with that, the point he was making is, we forever keep having this same discussion, and not one person is being appointed to take control, to end this argument or discussion or debate once and for all, so that we can all move forward.
Well, no, but that's never going to happen. I mean, you don't have a white mass.
The reason why it's never going to happen is because we keep saying...
When you have...
Hold on, sorry. The reason why it's never going to happen is because we keep focusing on the negative and saying it's never going to happen.
No, you missed the point. That's not what I was going to say. In the community, you have you know, so the left and right and centre. You've got Conservative, you've got Labour, you've got Liberal, you've got different factions within any community that have different ways of looking at things. Old money, new money, religious, not religious. So as a black community, there's no reason why we shouldn't also have different
Breaking up.
Lennox lost you there.
He's still there, Lennox.
And Lennox on one. He's in his own world now.
If I could just
Can
say
you
something,
hear
right?
me?
Does it need to be, in my opinion, right, it doesn't need to be one person, right?
You should be a board.
What always eluded us is the collective, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We all have.
Having said that now, right? What about?
We all have.
Let Owen finish, Al. Let Owen finish. Go on, Owen.
We all have individual visions, you know, we're all visionaries, and that's a good thing. What's always eluded us is working collectively. That's the point that we've got to get over. And Scott made an interesting point, but Scott, with respect, my brother, it doesn't be one person, you know. We just got to learn to work together. Africans do it, although they have their faults. Asians do it, although they have their faults. They have a common goal, and they learn to coalesce when they need to coalesce. What's always eluded us, I don't know if it's because of our history of coming from disparate tribes, being brought together, and having to work our way through the fog to become a new nation of Caribbeans, but we still have yet to learn the lesson of working together.
So
that's what this is what we're bad at. Let's put it right.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. When Richard Branson built Virgin, was he thinking about working with a lot of people together, or was he thinking about building Richard Branson?
Point taken.
Well, when Richard Branson started off, he started off selling.
Richard Branson was building a brand. I mean, what's a black brand?
He wasn't building a brand at first. What he started off doing was actually selling Christmas trees from a Mini, using a Mini. That's how he started off. But he was focused on himself. He's focusing on himself.
But Alan, Richard Branson's father was very rich, right? So you know, it's like I don't decry what you said. I take on board what you say, but you know, it's like someone's starting off with money to pay or to work with, and someone just having sand grains. You understand? So the only way that we can get to a stage where things will begin to work for us, I believe, change the mindset. We're all here have got a positive mindset to move forward, but what's lacking is the logistics of the how to do it. And the reason why the logistics are failing is because at the time over history, we have not held the mirror up to ourselves to say, look, this is what's not going right for us. We need to move forward like this, or explore ways of moving forward. And the biggest thing to get over is working together. We've always said this. Black people in the West, in the diaspora, have been like crabs in the basket. We don't celebrate each other's successes. If we can get over that, which I think we are doing, because we've got gentlemen like you now on this forum here, who are visionaries in their own right, we will get it right. It's to sustain it. I don't know. I think one of you mentioned the word sustainability. In my opinion, I agree with that. It's to sustain it. Once you know what it is, sustain it where you can build not riches, because riches is transitory. You can mount up riches and to create wealth. Wealth is legacy, and that's the path we're going to go on. And wealth is not just money; it's knowledge, wealth of legacy, wealth of culture, everything which will create a environment for future generations to feed off, to build on that, to become a good socio-economic political force in this place for ourselves.
Well, what I suggested a while ago is the formation of a group called the Federation of Brothers, basically, years and years ago. And this is while I was at Goodyear Tires. And I said to everybody, well, we could put £10 a month into it. And by then, between now, since I left Goodyear Tires in 1993, I think it was, to now, we could have had a lot of money.
I used to work there.
It's still it's still a feasible thing to do. It's still a feasible thing to do. You know, and the thing is, though, I agree with what my guy said earlier on about we might think we don't need a building, but I forgot what the gentleman's name is. We might not need a building.
It's all right.
Yeah, Alex. Okay, so we might not need a building, Alex. But the thing is, though, that once we get that thing going, like the Federation put some money into it, and we keep doing it and make it a positive thing within the community, so all the people in the church can actually see it happening. And the thing is, though, we need to nail some of these pastors down who just basically waste the congregation's money. A lot of them do.
Or they're too busy in that spare room that could be used as a library with somebody else's wife. But what I'm trying to say, just on a sense of humour note, what I'm saying is, let's just say the Federation Brothers existed today from this conversation.
Yeah.
And the 5 of us in here put £10 each a month in for the first year, which is affordable, I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody's circumstances, but for me, that's affordable under my circumstances. Let's say the 5 of us do that for a year with no building.
Yeah, you can amass some money because
But I'm sure the positive people that see what we're trying to do. We're not talking about the negatives. We're talking about the positive people only that want to help. The power of one, bringing one person on board every month to do the same thing.
I think if you've got that going, that would be a good idea, a good thing to do. And also, you'll probably find you get a lot of perks attached to it. Say, if you wanted to say, okay, we've got some teachers who might want to give some lessons to certain kids. Okay, we'll get all the stuff together. The churches can get involved. We can use rooms in different places for it. And then you might get other people actually slowly come on board, seeing that things are happening for the kids. Like, even if we say, okay, we raised X amount of money, let's take the kids out for the beach for the day. How many of our black kids?
Forget that. Because
a lot of that's happening already.
I just think that's dipping into a pot. We're not achieving an overall.
Sometimes you don't.
We're not achieving an overall picture.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, of course you
don't even need to dip into the pot if you know where the resources are. If I look at what's happening in the last 12 months, I've taken kids sailing, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sailing. I've taken them golfing, or not golfing, but it was not the pitch and putt, the driving range up at the Five Hammers. I couldn't do the scuba diving because I ran out of time. I was going to take them horse riding. So there is money available to do that without dipping into the pot that you would have. There are resources that you can access at little or no cost to yourself. I mean, those sort of things exist already. They're there. There's a lot of within sort of church circles homeschooling. I know a lot of parents that do homeschooling, and if you look at the resources surrounding the homeschooling thing, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot that's going on that you may or may not be aware of.
Yeah, there's usually a case of trying to deny us as a community access to those resources. That's the thing. Some of them do.
Quite the opposite, in fact. Quite the opposite. I will if you want to call me afterwards, I will put you in touch with somebody that has money to throw at you, and she can't get people to do projects. If you've got a project and you live around the Wolverhampton area, I can put you in touch after this with somebody that is saying, I'm looking to spend some money. I've got some money to spend. So it doesn't exist. Call me afterwards. I'll give you somebody that's got a pot of money to spend.
Those systems out there too are also inclined to work with you too if you can match fund them. So if you are raising, for instance, money between yourselves, they'll look at you kindly because they'll see you as a credible entity to work with rather than coming with two bare hands. So It's all
No,
good.
no, I'm talking two bare hands. I'm talking two bare hands.
No, I know that, but I'm saying on the other hand too, that there are funding bodies out there too that like to work with people that call match fund. They'll look on you more favourable because they know that you've got a commitment to something. That's all about money, right? So as well as some funding infrastructures prepared to fund projects without any money at all, there's the other side where you're raising your credibility, where you've got something to bring to the table, where you can even get bigger funding because you've got something to bring to the table. It's all out there for the taking. It is.
Oh, kite flying was another one I did. I took 50 kids kite flying.
Okay.
I mean, in West Park, you know, the funding was available to and it was a fun activity for the kids, you know. So there is money available out there.
Can I just ask you guys a question?
It's building something for yourself, though, isn't it?
Oh,
That's the question.
can I just ask you a question? All of you.
Me?
All of you. All of you.
Okay.
What if money was put in? Okay, in fact, forget if. When money is going to be put into a pot, the question is, what is the purpose for the money? What would you like to see happen before you exit this planet for black people? What would you personally like to see happen?
Me personally, I would like to see a collaboration of making sort of like the situation we got in some of the inner cities is that when our children get locked up and come out, they're put back into the same environment where the criminality is a cyclic thing and they're back in prison. So the police and the judicial system rely upon that to keep the prisons populated. What I would like to see is a breaking in that cycle where we reach out to parts of Africa where we can actually build a resource center out there. So these kids can be intercepted on the way out with the parents' permission and then be taken out there so they can actually learn something different. Yeah. And it also gives a bridge to the African continent as well, because I can't see, you ask yourself a question realistically, say, where do I see my kids in 15, 20 years time in this country? And you have to give the children an opportunity to move around the world rather than sticking in this place where we are going to populate the prisons. So we need to break that cycle. And I think a bridge to the African continent where we can have a resource center or an outreach place there so the kids can actually go and know something different about Africa, despite what they've been told on TV and everything else with the kids with the flies on their faces and what have you. Give them the opportunity to go out there and look at things different. Also take them out of that criminality. You see, so they can be attached to a school out in Africa or something, so they can help with farming in Africa, because I've got shares in a tomato farm in Ghana, and I see that as a good opportunity for my kids later on. Either they can sell the shares.
A small number of people.
Sorry?
That's a small number. Okay, that's a small number of people who've been excluded from schools, who potentially could be criminals, going over to.
It's not a small. Believe me, it's not a small number.
I'm kind of with Tony on this one as well. You know, I get where Tony's going with it.
One thing you're missing here is
I'm not missing you, but I get what Alan's saying as well. But I get where Tony's going. Like, what difference is that going to make on everyone on a whole? What difference would that make on everyone on a whole?
What I'm saying is, though,
there's an issue here. What do the kids want to do? And this is the issue. Some of them are not going to be interested in anything at all, in any shape or form.
They might not want to, but what choices they've got at the moment? What do they actually want to do now? And the thing is, though, they haven't got a clue what they want to do now at this present time. So this is what I'm saying.
I think a better thing for them to do is to educate them and assist them into getting their foot up onto a good job here. Or a good job.
This is one of my ideas.
It's jobs they need. They need jobs so that they can make decisions that hopefully are going to be. Because if you see how society is going,
the
more the kids.
But Neville, just think of the way you're thinking at the moment.
Hold on, can he finish his point now?
Let Neville finish first.
Let him finish his point first.
Think of the society at the moment with the way some of these kids are privileged. They've got a lot more than we had growing up, but they don't think it's anything special. So they want what their mates got, or what their mates' dad's giving them, or what their mates' mother's giving them. They want something totally different, which really they've done nothing to deserve, but they think, why shouldn't I have it? They've got it, I want it. So the reality is you need to find something that those kids are going to say, well, listen, the path to getting what you want is this. You need to go through these type of this type of education, and then you can set yourself up in this particular. I'm going to give you a very simple analogy, and it goes back to football. Wolves have got into the Premier League a few times, and the majority of the managers that have brought Wolves up all came out with exactly the same thing. What do you think you want to do in your first year? And the manager's answer was, we want to survive. Okay? Then we had a guy that they brought over from Portugal. And his analogy, his thing, where they said, what you want to achieve in your first year, he came out with a totally different concept. He said, we are here to compete. Totally shifting that thing about just surviving and stopping in the top.
Yeah, and that makes sense because
going to fight with the people who are going to be number one. It means that your achievement will be higher than had you thought about just surviving.
Yeah.
It's getting their brains changed. It's thinking you do need a job. You do need to get something else.
Can I interject a minute there? Because what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is a focus just on a secular existence in Britain. What I was trying to say is open up the scope.
Once you've got your education, you can go anywhere you want.
But if you get your education, but what I'm saying is we can offer that scope outside of Britain for the kids for the future, because 20 years time there will be no future for our kids here, and that's just saying it openly. I don't think there will be. They have to have an opportunity to say, okay, if that ain't going to work here, at least I've got somewhere else I can go. But it's up to us to establish that for them.
I can understand what you're saying. I can understand it, but you look at the generation of black people who've come over to England. What percentage of those people have actually gone back home and then returned?
There's quite a few actually gone back to Barbados. There's quite a few gone back.
It's not more than 50%.
And returned.
No,
and then they returned. Some of them.
Some may return.
Okay, but what's the reason for returning?
Because they didn't like it over there. The thing is,
because they were so used to over here. You mean they're accustomed to here?
But this is the trouble. Then tell me how come.
Kids need to have their mindsets changed.
Yes, mindset.
I mean, it doesn't matter where they're going to be in the world, but unfortunately, in speech mark, they're here. The mindset has to be changed on how they react here, what they're exposed to here, what the realistic thing is. Kids today live in a fairy tale land. They think they've got to have Adidas trainers, they've got to have designer clothes, they've got to have this. The parents are funding it, and they don't even know how to manage money. They don't know how to approach people. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to
isn't it best
authority.
To try and take them out of the environment? It's best to take them out of the environment.
The number of people that want
what does taking them out of the?
It's going to be small.
Well,
so you spend so Tony.
Opportunity.
Sorry, Alan. You spend money on taking them out of the environment. Sometimes it might not achieve anything, and that's quite a lot of money spent.
Well, the thing is, though, you have to make that attempt, and it's up to you and the other people around you how driven they are to help that change.
Can I just pose a different visual for a second?
Say again?
Can I just pose a different visual for a second?
Go on in.
Because I know where you're heading with trying to give them make them see a better visual and lifestyle. But I posed this. How about putting money into a pot to buy a house? You're a black landlord that rents to a family. For the first 3 years, the family has basic rent so that they can save money to get a mortgage so they can go out and get their own place quicker. That people can get houses quicker wherever they want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because
it makes sense, but you've got different people's concept of okay, I've got this house. Some of them actually lose their drive and the purpose of what they're supposed to be doing. You know, they get distracted and spend money in different directions. So
I
sometimes it might not
disagree.
work
I
out. But you have,
disagree because you're saying, you said to me at the beginning of this conversation, or someone said at the beginning of the conversation, that Africans are doing it, Asians are doing it,
yeah.
other cultures are doing it, but you're now presenting an obstacle, just like what.
It's not an obstacle. It's not an obstacle.
Okay.
What I'm saying is how determined those people will be to stick to it. Because don't forget, we had that system where.
But it goes back to what Neville just said.
Where
either survive or you win. And
Alex,
you're obviously going to make. Obviously going to invest into. You're going to invest your money into a winner, aren't you?
You're making a valid point there, Alex.
I'm going to invest into.
There's something. There's legs to the concept that you've got there. I think it needs fleshing out a little bit. I have heard and been involved in similar conversations in the past from people coming out of prison, setting up there, giving them the ability to do the buy-to-let thing, and they run the show. You know, they build it, they do the property development thing, and then pass it on. And then pass those skills on to other people, and so on and so on and so on. So I have been involved in similar conversations like that, Alex. And I think there is some legs to what you're saying there. I think there's it's a doable one. It is doable.
I think.
Even if I look around, if I look around some parts of Wolverhampton, you can buy a house for like 80 grand.
Lennox, on what you're saying there, I personally think black people will be far more satisfied with having a house than a holiday.
Yeah.
Or sending some kid who could have got counselling and had his mindset changed for free. Do you get what I mean?
There's potential there. I think there is something to be done. That issue has got legs. If you look at kids coming out of prison, and then sort of they're into the hostel thing, for however many months, if you taught those kids how to do the buy-to-let thing, there are enough properties selling in certain parts of the town that they could access. There's a whole bunch of skills that you could teach some kids there.
Absolutely. Sorry to cut you, Lennon.
It has potential.
Sorry, Alan. Where I think your point has potential in terms of like someone coming out of prison, an average business setup to get products for a business idea is £1,000. But you need around about £8,000 to £10,000 to rent a building up front in order to guarantee to. It depends on where the building is, but if it's in the town centre, you know, you're going to need to show
it's a lot more.
The landlord that it's 10 grand. But what I'm saying is that for the first year, a mentor could be put in place to help someone who's got a business. He's got a business idea when they come out of jail to develop and become a business owner. So they're not actually written off in society by not getting a job.
Property. Keep it a property. Don't sort of spread it with a business. Keep it a property owner, and then sort of turn that over. Just keep it a property, because you're coming out disadvantaged with nowhere to live and just a hostel. Yeah, I think if you just kept it a property, that could turn over. That could turn over very easily.
So what would you like to do then, guys? Brotherhood, this brotherhood, innit? What would you like to do?
I don't mind putting in. I'd put in. No qualms about that. Everybody else has gone quiet. They're still in the room.
I'm not quiet, man. I'm just saying, because
everybody else.
For me, I feel in order for this to work, a business account has to be set up in the right name, and then everyone puts into this business account, and that person's held accountable to ensure that no one's taking anything out of this pot until we've reached a goal to say, right, let's make a decision collectively on what we're going to do now.
Well, from a business point of view, I couldn't do that way. I'd have to have a couple of people on that.
Yeah.
Because if someone's sick, someone dies, you might want 2 signatories. You've got to make sure that you've got a checks and balances put in place, just on the safe side.
Well, it seems like you understand it, so.
Yeah, that's natural.
Yeah, I'm the youngest one here, so I'm willing to put in, and I'm willing to be guided to understand how everything works.
And
But I'm willing to work with. In fact, better still, I will work with.
Yeah, the things what I would want as well is that if it was me, I'd want those churches involved, community centres involved. You've got to expect some.
I don't know, because the first thing they're going to ask is they want us to donate what we've already saved up. That's what I think.
No,
I think it involved nobody for a long time.
Listen, I have to know, but I think this has got some legs. I don't think you need to involve too many people. I think once you start spreading it to the churches and whoever else, it's going to get watered down. You need a handful of people
that's my point.
with one vision. And if we're going to do one thing, we do one thing well. But the more people that you bring in, the longer it takes, and everybody's going to put their little bit in. You don't need a lot of people. You need a handful of people to say, this is what we're doing, this is where we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, this is who we're doing it for, and you can step out with it. The more you involve churches and it's never going to work. Because who in church are you going to go and talk to? If the minister,
Lennox,
who are you going to talk to? Ain't going to happen. It will never happen.
Lennox, 1 second. Everybody else on this chat, does everybody agree with what Lennox just said then?
Not to get too many people involved.
There's a massive amount to think about.
I just want to say something, right?
I agree with you, Lennox, man. I agree with Lennox. That's what I'm saying.
All the ideas I've heard, right?
Yeah.
Of legs. But it's okay putting money. I've got no qualms about funding anything at all like that. But first of all, there's one important point missing here, right? And that's direction. And direction may begin with the philosophy. What is the philosophy behind the mission statement, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got to know what you're seeing, you've got to know exactly why we're doing it.
That's right.
And what is going to lead to, right?
Yep,
I've heard no talk about the path forward with the philosophy behind this machine. This machine has great legs to walk, but I think at the moment, right, we're putting the donkey's backside before its head, right?
Yep.
First of all, 2 ways. You can go about it 2 ways. You can start it straight away by opening an account and putting money in there, but at the same time, in concert with that, minds like ourselves need to get together and, like we're talking now, in a room,
have a plan,
and knock out and sort out firm, direct philosophy.
That's right.
Organism, right? And besides that,
thank you.
Then you've got your policies. Then you've got your objectives, because the objectives are how to get there. And it's not on a weekly basis. This is a 5-year, 6-year plan where we know what we're doing in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and this gentleman. And this is what I need to hear from you, right? 2 things, stereo. Number 1, investment in the future with the young, right? Getting them to love the acquirement of knowledge, right? Getting them to know that this country, as bad as it is, has specific things that they're entitled to. Free education, right? Setting up a base of free education at school, whether it goes to academia or whether it goes to something vocational. It's still equally as important. That's 1. Number 2, you've got to also not just cater for the young, but the people that are here now, our age backwards, people that want to actually change their life, change direction, when they think, oh yeah, I'm going to get involved with this because I want to do this. And the ultimate aim, gentlemen, is to do this, is that whatever this thing becomes, it must do the following things. Build for the future. Build a wealth of skill, which covers a broad spectrum, not just university, but also vocational, right?
Yeah.
You must also explore and also discover, right, a niche of the society in which God serve, and ultimately work towards the socio-economic development of Black people, the socio-economic and political development of Black presence in this town, and also generally contribute to the socio-economic and development of the country and the town, right? Because we ain't going to be doing that. Because that's a long term, you know, that's a long term. Because the bods up there in Whitehall and the bods up there right in the positions of power are going to say, well, what are you about? And we've got to be able to have that argument stat. If anyone asks us that, we can hit them on every level. We can show that we've thought about this. It's a bit like Dragon's Den. This is a small acorn which could grow into massive oak trees, but you've got to get your philosophy right.
That's right.
That's my
right.
point.
That is correct.
I hear this all the
Listen,
time.
guys, I have to go.
I've been in conversations with this. If I could just say this to my friend Lennox. Len, you know something? Like you, I have been in these conversations for the past 45 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 66 and a bit. I've been in this country. I've been in these sort of conversations in Birmingham, in Wolverhampton, in Barcelona for the past 45 years, right? And to quote young Scott, he's right. We keep on talking about this over and over and over and over again. But you know something else, Scotty? Let me tell you something, right, Alex?
I'm here.
Sometimes you need to talk. They say talk is cheap, but talk is necessary as long as it's followed by action. And gentlemen, our only way forward is a firm direction. Where we know why we're doing it.
Owen.
Who's talking? Oh yes, Alex. Yeah.
I am serious about serving a purpose before I die.
So
and what I'm willing to do, no messing about now. I'm serious on this conversation because I've been waiting to meet people who are like-minded to do something. And look, I have a year. This is. I'm willing to put £10 in every month. This is the first year. I'm willing to give you the first year.
I'll hold
and get that over and done with.
Okay.
Providing,
Guys, can we pick this up again? Yeah, because I'm running a little bit behind actually. So, pleasure meeting you, Owen. Not Owen, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Alan, I haven't seen you for years and years and years. But yeah, all right, guys, can we pick it up again next time? Yeah. But I agree with what Owen says. We need to have structure.
Lennox, before you go, are you on your laptop?
No, phone.
Okay, the date today is the 24th. If we all next month on the 24th have £20 ready, that's covered today for our first month, and next month, if you're really on this, I ain't playing no games here. If you're really on this, you know, I'm ready.
Alex,
let's do the foundation. Let's do the foundation. Yeah. All right, guys. Yep. Listen, we'll talk soon. Yeah. I've got to go. I'm running so late. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I'll have to go in a minute myself.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
Alex, I'm doing that now with something I'm working towards. But like you, I want to do something. I want to leave something behind for not just my brethren, but my kids and their kids' kids. It's about seeding the future, seeding the present.
Owen, I hope whatever you're doing in the background, is doing well. Yeah. I'm not going to discredit it. I'm talking about this right here today. What we're talking about now. Separate things.
I'm coming to that. I said, I too, like you, want to do something. We can't just pass this way and not leave something behind, right?
Yeah.
That will benefit today and tomorrow.
Well, that's what Emerson said, isn't it? Emerson said, leave a trail and for others to follow.
Yeah, I mean, was it? Someone mentioned the term. Someone mentioned the term about 2 minutes ago. They mentioned foundation, right?
Yeah.
Why can't this thing be called the foundation, right?
Call it that then.
Because
I call it Federation of Brothers.
something cannot stand strong and thrive without a good foundation. Trees need good foundation. They have roots, don't they? So just that simple term can be all things to all people. It's apolitical too, you know.
Yeah, can I just say one thing? I don't think it should just be. I don't think the word brothers should be attached to it because
No,
exactly.
To be honest,
Just
there's a lot of
foundation.
sisters that are better at saving money than we are. But you know what I mean. So, and I know they'd get involved. You know what I mean.
If it's just a general noun, right? Foundation, that's fine because you can build on a foundation. It's not political, it's not general, but it's functional, right? If it's that, no one knows what we're doing, but they'll know us by our words. And that's basically what I'm saying. But you know, I hope that's just my opinion.
Do you mind if we attach the word? Do you mind if we attach the word wealth to it?
No,
No.
you can't do either.
No.
That's only from a marketing perspective.
I don't know because it just. I think it's positive in order to pass for people to pass that wealth on from generation to generation.
Alex,
yes, but
don't forget.
Can I respond to that?
Of course you can.
What you're saying is right, Alex, but that's what the foundation does. We know what we're doing. The foundation is to give it a presence, give it a name, right? For me, something like that works because it's all for all people. It's got one specific function, building solidarity. And once you've got a strong foundation, then you can start to grow sturdily, steadily, and successfully. Which brings me to my last point. If we work out the philosophy, we can also work out the strapline slogan, and use that as the guiding principle for the plans for phase 1, 2, 3. That's just a suggestion.
So I'm going to ask one question then.
Yeah, go on then.
I'm committed. Neville, are you committed to this?
Not at the moment.
That's fair enough.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
We've got the energy crisis kicking in the next month. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that.
Okay.
I think it's going to be okay, but who knows? So
Neville, I think that's a justifiable argument, mate, and that's a truthful argument, and that's what we need to do. We need to be truthful with each other.
Yeah, of course.
What the government have started doing, and I don't know even when it started, but all of a sudden, everything that you've ever joined, your phone bill, your mobile, your water bill, everything has an APR increase in April. Now, we don't join everything in April, and we certainly don't get that in any type of money that we get. So how are they able to think that everybody's going to be able to afford all these constant increases every April? So
the reason why I'll afford it is because my belief in the Creator ensures that I'm going to get through life.
Can I just suggest something? I want to leave Alex's idea behind, right? You see this forum that Tony set up?
Yeah.
That's the pathway. That's the pathway. Now, supplementary to that, as gentlemen, get a place and talk about how this thing is going to work. I think it's important to do that. It's a starting point. Please don't berate me for saying, well, talk is cheap, before you actually leap, you have to look. The talking is the looking to flesh out the logistics and the principles. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, that's what I said.
It's a safe stage to start from before you take any money out of your pocket, Alex. Keep the fire burning, but let's meet. Let's meet in person.
We're already meeting. This is what I'm trying to say to you. All we got to do is save together.
No. You have to slow down. Alex, you're going through the lot now. You need to slow down.
Alex,
do you know why I don't want to slow down? I'll tell you why I don't want to slow down.
No, but you have to get it
Alex,
right.
Can I tell you why I don't want to slow? Can I just?
Alex, my brother, listen. This what we've got here is a separate function, right?
Yeah.
You understand? This was set up to flesh out issues which affect us and explore ways of moving forward. This thing which you've identified now is tangible, right? That means we can create a separate either platform or a separate meeting for that, so that can progress forward.
Absolutely, but when we do that, let's meet with our £10 or £20 and still start.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen, honestly,
that's my point. That's my point.
Alex has got the fire. Alex has got the fire there. You see.
Because while we're not starting, while we're not starting the money process, we're letting the purpose down, and we're still having a conversation.
I disagree with that. I don't agree with that there. I think to meet, even if you've got the money with you, fine, but let's talk about this and get it right. We have to know what we're putting our money in, right? So let's meet first of all. For me, the first move forward is to decide on a date, whether it's the next meeting on Zoom or not. Say, okay, we're going to meet here and we're going to discuss this. When Tony Wright at Christmas time wanted to meet everybody else, he went and booked a place and we met up for Christmas. That was the Katurna. He got off his backside and he did it. So let's pattern Tony's specific action. Let's then say, fine, we're going to meet. That's a good starting point, and see how it goes from there. And let's be committed to that.
There is something I think I can add. You wanted to add money or wealth, and we don't think it's right. However, I do think what you could add to it, with my business analyst head on, is the Growth Foundation.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good one.
Very good.
But while we're talking, we're growing money.
Yeah, but you're growing everything. Listen, let me tell you where I stand, right?
Yeah.
The way I look at things on a massive scale. Okay. So what I'm saying is, so once we've done this thing in one particular place, because we've got a process down to pat, we know how to go to Rotherham and do the same thing, how to go to Leeds and do the same thing, how to go to Manchester and do the same thing. So we can go and reproduce this in any particular given place. It's still the same Growth Foundation, but we are working it out because we've planned it out properly. So the principles of it are absolutely there. The principles and the processes are in place. And as long as you do A to B, you're going to get D, E, F. Simple as that. So that's why you've got to get everything in place first. Get the one thing working, and then you can start going and doing all these satellite ones at other places. Yeah, look excited by that, Alex.
I'm excited, but I'm just thinking the two principles that are the main core of the foundation before it even happens. No matter what we're trying to achieve, the two principles are: we're committed to consistently putting the same amount in, and we trust each other. I've come on here willing to give you money. I've never met you.
Can't build.
But I'm willing to trust you because I believe in it that much, because we've always had this conversation over and over and over and over again, that I'm willing to stop these conversations now and get on with it. Do you get it?
Well, those who can give, right? First step go open the bank account, right? Decide who's going to be doing that, right? Decide who the signatories are going to be. Once that bank account is open, you're committed right there and then. Even if you put nothing in it, at least it's there.
Well, let's sit down. Let's. Okay. After this, because Tony's got my number. Let's get together, maybe in a private place, and discuss this. In the meantime, yeah, I know what you're saying, but let's get on with it. Let's get it done. Not after the conversation that we're still thinking about it.
Let's get Brexit done.